Anytime you want to send the ROCK Ultra back to me to play with for a couple of weeks, I'd be happy to do it. Because I feel like I could take over the world with that sensor.
For over 5 years, ROCK Robotic has partnered with over 1,000 clients worldwide, completing over 30,000 jobs from quick turnarounds to the most complex projects. We specialize in aerial and drone LiDAR hardware and software backed by our ROCK Pro services team, processing over 1 million acres of data with expert QC/QA for precise, high-quality results. Based in the US, our industry-leading customer success team works as an extension of your crew, hands-on from the first flight to final deliverable. No matter the scale or challenge, we're by your side, ensuring you capture the exact data you need to succeed.
Welcome back to the ROCK Ultra Demo Tour, where professionals in surveying and geospatial services put the new ROCK Ultra LiDAR to the test. We talk about the experience, the workflow, and the data. Today, I'm joined by drone service provider Drew Disney from Flight DSP. Before we get into his Ultra experience, let's start with a little background. Tell us about your business and what you do.
Sure, yeah. Drew Disney, operating partner of Flight DSP. I was originally a transmission engineer, developing power lines for primarily for utilities and some of the plants here in the Houston area. And I was the end user of LiDAR and fell in love with it. I had not seen it all through college. When I became a professional, I started using it every day, and it blew my mind because it literally became the play space where us engineers would design. And like it was almost like playing a video game once I had a good LiDAR data set to actually build on. And so I was using it, but I was having quality issues with the data sets that I was receiving, accuracy, lead times, 6 to 8 week lead times. And I also was behind the scenes seeing what people were paying for the service. And it was extremely interesting to me. So I said, let me jump into this. Let me get out from behind the cubicle and get out in the field and start integrating LiDAR and engineering. And so been doing that for the last 2 years, and I love it. It's been great. And ROCK has been a huge part of that as well.
Awesome. We'll definitely get to talking about your experience with ROCK Robotic. But first, I'd like to hear a little bit more about your business. What does your typical day look like for Drew Disney and Flight DSP?
Whew. Well, I wish every day was out in the field, but a lot of times it's sitting here at the computer. I'm reviewing data that I've collected. I'm emailing with clients. I'm doing a lot of sales calls, and just trying to essentially find ways to relieve people's pain points in GIS surveying and engineering.
Yeah, absolutely. The business side of that, I can only imagine is quite a handful. It's you're our first DSP that we've discussed with so far on the ROCK Ultra Demo Tour, so we're definitely really excited to get like your perspective, because I've always found DSPs fascinating, a little bit different than the surveying side of things. So if you could speak to a little bit about being a drone service provider, and maybe what is your favorite aspect of that, and what really kind of keeps you motivated with your company?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, I would say my favorite thing about it is the variability. One day I might be doing a surveying project. The next day I'm doing progress monitoring or inspections. And we're actually getting involved in some oil field heavy lift services that are going to be very interesting in the future. So a lot of variability, a lot of moving parts, and I'm just never bored. So that's been huge for me, at least. Maybe a bit ADD.
Yeah, I feel like being never bored is like every kid's goal for what they do. Everyone wants to be an astronaut. Everyone wants to be. I think the ultimate goal is to not be bored at work. So I feel like that's a huge accomplishment. I can speak to that myself. Working at ROCK Robotic, I'm never bored either. I always have fun, interesting stuff to keep me busy and working on. So we'll use that as a segue into the ROCK Ultra LiDAR system. And I'd just like to understand a little bit more about the project site you chose to fly for the ROCK Ultra demo. Tell us a little details about that project, why you decided you wanted to fly it with the ROCK Ultra, and then we'll go into a little bit more about your experience. But first, let's just talk about the site.
Sure. Yeah, I had been asked to fly this just a couple days while I was already talking to you, Vincent, about this demo. And it was really the perfect size to kind of get an idea of the benefits of the Ultra and how it's going to work with flying higher, flying faster. And at the time, it was supposed to be a heavily vegetated site. So I was super excited about seeing the multi-returns with dense vegetation. Of course, I got out there and realized that they had cleared most of the property. But ultimately, it was the size of the property. I thought it was just going to be perfect for this demo.
Yeah, and what was the size of the property?
So they ended up using about 200 acres of the data we collected. You see there, I think we ended up just over 300. So, but yeah, it was. I believe they're going to expand a train depot. If I understand the project correctly, I don't have as much visibility. It was for a surveyor in Beaumont, Texas. So.
Yeah, so you spoke to the ROCK Ultra and you hit some of the key points there with the ability to plan simpler, fly higher, and map faster. So let's talk about that. What was it like flying the ROCK Ultra?
It was awesome. I will say I'm just conservative by nature, and this being a true client project and being a couple hours from home, I was hesitant to fly as fast as I could have. And I was kicking myself afterwards saying, man, I could have ratcheted up this speed. But that's okay. One of the things that really stood out to me was there was a small airport, municipal airport nearby. And I was a little bit hesitant about flying at, close to 400 feet. But really, it ended up being a huge advantage because the line of sight really was extremely helpful in this. So, being able to go out into the middle of that property and essentially be able to see the drone in all directions and not have to move was awesome.
Absolutely. What kind of stood out to you about flying higher at those altitudes and, not needing any kind of obstacle avoidance? I'm not sure if you necessarily needed it for this job, but speak to the confidence you had in being able to fly the unit higher, and what kind of altitudes are you typically flying jobs at? And let's just dive a little bit deeper into that aspect of the Ultra LiDAR system.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, typically I fly almost everything at 165 feet. It's just been a standard for me, and I've done well with it as far as using like the R3 Pro V2. But being able to, even at 165 feet, you're gonna eventually run into things. Like you have to be very mindful when you're planning the project, particularly with cell phone towers. There are some extremely large transmission towers. I've actually designed one that was close to that height. So yeah, not really needing to think about that was amazing. I did, of course, still look, but it was just peace of mind when you're out there in the field. So that was very helpful for sure.
Absolutely. And every little piece of that help just, contributes to being able to accomplish the job a little less stress-free, getting it done quicker. And speaking of getting it done faster, let's talk a little bit about how did the Ultra shape the way you planned your mission and your time on the field? How long did this take? What was the mission planning like? Let's discuss that.
Sure. And, like I said, I have to admit that I could have probably tackled this in, I'm guessing, 25 minutes. But being conservative nature and already planning for dense vegetation, I just rolled with the 5 meters per second flight speed. And again, kicking myself on that, but I still was able to do this with essentially 2 sets of batteries. I only brought 3 sets, which, with any other sensor flying at 165 feet, I probably would have gone through at least 4 or 5 sets of batteries. And so that was definitely helpful. I mean, I was out there on site. I think my MLID was running for like an hour total. So that was great. I mean, Yeah, that's hard to beat.
Yeah, next time you're going to have to be a little anti-conservative, push it to the test, because I definitely think you can get it done with one battery. I know for a fact that you can.
I do too. Yep.
But I totally understand your mindset out there, and just you are used to doing things the way that you do them, and able to accomplish. And what your end goal always is to be able to capture clean, crisp, quality data. And you are setting your LiDAR system to the parameters that allow for that. So that actually kind of speaks as a testament to the ROCK Ultra, is that it is able to accomplish something you didn't think it would be able to accomplish. So I just want to put out there for the world watching that you can fly it faster. And Drew could have got this done quicker, but he was still only out there for an hour and was able to accomplish this job. Drew, let's talk about the deliverables.
Yeah, on this project in particular, we needed, this is a surveyor that has done LiDAR in the past. And so they wanted a ground classified point cloud. They were actually going to put their topo shots in it and derive their own surfaces. Now, of course, I just automatically, I'm going to provide a surface and I'm going to provide contours. And as you know, that's the standard deliverables with ROCK Surveyor. So of course, got a beautifully classified ground point cloud. And then I've got a surface model. If they want it a 10 in land XML, I love giving that out. But yeah, the point cloud, the surface model, and the contours were tops.
Awesome. Love to hear that. I will ask, so did you submit the data over to your client?
I did. Absolutely. And I'll admit, yeah, as of right now, I don't believe that they've even viewed it, but we have that kind of relationship. They know that we're going to provide quality data, and there's no doubt in my mind about it.
So you are happy with the end results, and you felt confident being able to submit them over to your client from the ROCK Ultra LiDAR.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So we got the job done, Drew.
Got it done. Love it.
Love it. And we're going to talk more about that job now. And I just want to ask you, since we have the data on the screen and we've been cycling around it and taking a look, what stood out to you the most about the point cloud data from this flight?
Well, it's obviously a nice, dense cloud. I mean, as always, the colorization with ROCK is, pretty much as good as it gets. It just looked good. It was, there was more overlap than I expected. Like, I guess I would say over the edges of the parameter that I put in place. So, which can actually be really helpful. I end up running into more instances where clients come back asking for more data on the sides. And with this, I would have been able to provide it. It was just crisp. It was good.
Awesome. I would like to ask you, since you typically do use one of our systems, the R3 Pro V2, I believe.
Yeah.
Did you notice any differences between the data? And also you could speak a little bit to the experience of flying the R3 Pro V2 versus flying the Ultra. What are the similarities there in the experience and the data?
Sure. I mean, similarities was, in calibration, and, just essentially it felt like the same unit from that standpoint. I didn't have any question marks or surprises when I got out in the field and, the one button, start and record essentially. And so that was comfortable. As far as differences, obviously, height, speed, and then I would say the density and just the amount of data that I received was, again, if I could have flown it a lot faster and gotten less density in that case, but for what I needed, it was great.
Awesome. Love to hear that. What kind of features or ground detail were you able to capture? Let's talk a little bit about some of the details of the data set.
Sure. I mean, for a surveyor, one of the most important things that they're looking for, if they're going to sub this kind of work out, essentially sub out a topography survey, is they want to know what the ditches are going to look like. Is this going to be able to get into the low-lying areas and capture that data? This had a little water. There's like a little bayou on the left side of the project, and so they're wanting to see if it captured the banks well, if it's actually going to save them from going out there. And then obviously getting under vegetation was huge. And yeah, I had never seen or used a LiDAR sensor like this that could get under vegetation at that level. So
awesome. I love to hear that. So let's talk a little bit more about that. How did the Ultra perform in those challenging areas underneath that canopy and the dense vegetation? We're looking at a surface. We were looking at a surface model here. Let's talk. What are you seeing, Drew? What does this data set say to you, and the deliverables in particular?
Yeah, I think, with it being cleared, there weren't too many major surprises, but like on the north end of the data set, there is a berm, I guess to your left of where you're at right now. Yep. There was a berm up by where they've done a lot of construction, and there's vegetation on that berm. And yeah, right in there. Interestingly enough, I didn't expect that. I actually thought that was just vegetation. I didn't know that there was actually buildup there. And, it's obviously man-made. Somebody has done that on purpose. But once, like, seeing the data and seeing underneath that vegetation showed exactly what was there. And that was surprising. So just being able to capture, again, all those there's several different kind of ditches and embankments that were captured. I know for the surveyor, he's going to use on that rail section, he's going to use it for the flats in between rails. So that's less points that he was going to have to collect on the ground, which is super helpful.
Awesome. Love to hear that. Let's kind of combine it here. You talked earlier about being in the office and doing some desk work, but you'd rather be out in the field. So with the Ultra allowing you to fly missions faster, you can fly more missions per day. But with this particular mission, from field to finish, how did using the Ultra affect your workflow, your entire workflow?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can put hours back in your day, and that's huge. I easily could have scheduled 3 or 4 flights for this same day, which would be really unheard of for me. And as far as what I'm going to do one a day, and not try to push it more than that unless they're very small and close together. But yeah, I mean, anything, once you get into 200 acre range, I'm just going to plan to spend a whole day on it, between setting targets and being on site and getting the flights, making sure the data is good. So yeah, saving time is just, obviously time is money. It's so true.
Yeah, it's all of those cliches are very, very true. And I find that time is money is probably the most truest out of all of them. Which part of the Ultra's workflow was the easiest or most enjoyable?
That's a good question. I would say, flight planning. Yeah, it was just like, okay, I'm going to go fly this thing at 400 feet. And it's going to get me, 120 meters. It's going to get me exactly what I need. That was awesome. That was new.
Love to hear that. Let's talk a little bit about your overall experience. Let's talk about your overall experience. What it's been like working with ROCK Robotic as your LiDAR partner. And we'll get into the tools and some of the ROCK Desktop and the ROCK Cloud. But what's your experience been like working with ROCK Robotic and ROCK Pro Services?
Sure. Yeah, it's a very competitive field. And, the company that really cares the most about helping the clients are the companies that are going to win in this race. And, my experience, particularly working with Jamie and some of the others, Andrew and others on staff have been really good, really positive in the past. I've had very little issues with like out in the field. One time my USB was too full to get a flight in, and I'm calling Andrew and I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, have you looked at your USB? I'm like, surely I didn't make that rookie mistake. But just having, to be able to pick up the phone and get somebody on the line in that kind of situation, put on the kid gloves, not treat me like I was making a rookie mistake, and kind of walk me through that. And then obviously on the data side, anything that I've ever ordered processing on has been, top level for sure. And really, as a transmission line engineer, what drew me to ROCK in the first place was the ROCK Cloud. So, a story I tell a lot of times is that until I had seen the ROCK Cloud, I had only seen LiDAR in classified data sets that were brought into PLS CAD. And so to me, LiDAR was like a cartoon. The grass or the vegetation was green, the power lines were pink, the buildings were red. And then when I, opened up the ROCK Cloud and realized that I could provide more information to these engineers through colorization, through inspection photos and those things, that was a game changer for me.
Love to hear. And I'll speak to, our team. And at ROCK Robotic, we do pride ourselves at being an extension of your business and always being available for you to be able to tap into us for whatever it is that you need to help get the job done. That is something that we focus on over in our customer success team department and also in pro services. And speaking of pro services, I would like to add the one and the only Jamie Lackner to the conversation. And Jamie, go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know who you are, what you do at ROCK Robotic, and what it was like working with Drew Disney on this particular Ultra demo.
My pleasure. I'm Jamie Lackner. I'm the Pro Services Manager at ROCK Robotic. And Drew is someone I have greatly enjoyed working with. So this was kind of really exciting for me to work with him on something, getting the Ultra in his hands and getting the data back to him. So which thank you, Drew, for your kind words about the processing and such with ROCK Pro Services.
Sure.
We really do, like Vince said, try to be an extension of your team. And I appreciate you working with me in very constant contact, especially getting this to you to get to your client, because this is a real survey. It is going to be used for real world impact. And I wanted to make sure what you give out is, best caliber you can have.
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Is there anything else, Jamie, that you'd like to talk about on the data set or highlight or feature now that you are on camera? And maybe you could talk a little bit about your experience with helping get the deliverables for this data set and what that kind of looks like here at ROCK Robotic.
Yeah, I definitely did have questions about the train depot because I was worried. I was like, oh, that's a really interesting feature. Is it going to be do we cut off anything? Because that's always something I try to make sure is did we get the AOI? Is it to your needs? And when Drew started explaining that it is going to be an expansion into this area, I was stoked to see that we had captured what ultimately needs to be done. So that, planning work can begin. I also was pretty fascinated by this very recent construction work up in this area, the berm specifically that Drew already pointed out. So he got a lot of my points that I was like, oh, that and this. He already got them, which is great. That means we're seeing the same things. And the exciting stuff speaks for itself on this data set, which is always wonderful, where it's not like where you can just kind of see that the data speaks for itself simply.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Back to Drew real quick. If you had to sum up your Ultra experience in one statement or phrase, what would it be?
In one statement or phrase, I would say, should have thought about this one before. In one statement or phrase,
go ahead.
Yeah, I would say that I would definitely throw out words like, it was almost revolutionary to the process that I'm used to. So much so that I had a hard time utilizing it to its full extent. So, anytime you want to send the ROCK Ultra back to me to play with for a couple of weeks, I'd be happy to do it. Because I feel like I could take over the world with that sensor.
Yeah, I think we could probably get it back in your hands at some point. But as everyone should know, that the ROCK Ultra is going from week to week to week to new land surveyors, geospatial professionals, drone service providers to be able to put the ROCK Ultra LiDAR system to the test. And we'd like to thank Drew Disney and Flight DSP for testing out the LiDAR and giving us a great use case. Is there anything else that you'd like to add here at the end, Drew? Maybe do a little elevator pitch about your business and just kind of market yourself a little bit here and take this opportunity to do so.
Sure, of course. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're an engineered-owned business, and so we are the end users of LiDAR. So I'm always going to plug that whoever's collecting your LiDAR should be somebody that knows what to do with the data. Because at the end of the day, we are data providers. We're not drone guys. We work with data. So that's always the top selling point for Top Flight is that we've used it. We know how to make sure that you have exactly what you need. And as far as the process with ROCK, I can't speak enough about how great that's been.
Thank you. We love to hear that, Drew. Drew, thank you.
Appreciate it.